Good evening, everyone, and welcome to day 28 of the 90-day video challenge. We're almost one-third of the way through.
Yeah.
Almost.
When I said that the other day, you were kind of like throwing up in your mouth.
No, I wasn't. I was being overly dramatic for the camera.
We do have a lot of cameras in our house.
No, we
Is
just
that
have this one
explaining?
right now.
Well, okay, we'll go with that.
So the others are just there to protect the children from themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So, good evening. I hope that everyone has had a good day. It's been a cold and blustery day here. Just barely got to 40 today. So
Yeah.
we went from like summer and had about 4 or 5 days of fall, and now it's winter. In fact, they're expecting some snow and slick roads in our state tonight. So it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, and it is raining, so it is a cold rain. Oh, I don't like it.
Yeah, April's been inside all day.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you left the house this evening for sure.
I went and picked up the kids.
I know. We wouldn't want to make them walk home in this weather.
In the rain? Oh my goodness.
You know, when I was a kid, we had to walk to school uphill both ways.
When he was
in
a
the snow.
kid, his dad was the principal, so he did not walk to school.
No, but my dad didn't take me either because he had to go in at like crazy early time. It was interesting though. I never quite understood this. So when I was late freshman year, early sophomore year, I didn't have a driver's license. But the interesting thing was, and I don't really remember why. I'll have to ask my mom. But a lady that works with my mom or worked with her at the time stopped and picked me up to go to school. Now, I don't know why my mom didn't take me. And my dad, I think at the time was living in Las Vegas. So he was teaching school in Las Vegas for a year. So I'm not real sure what that deal was, but I remember for a while.
Yeah.
I would get picked up by a lady that worked in the same place as my mom. Shouldn't they have been there at the same time?
I don't know. I don't know what they were doing.
That was weird.
This may also be one of those things like a Christmas tree.
Listen, the Christmas tree
is a debate in his family. Rockford remembers a Christmas tree that nobody else remembers.
They remember it. They were remembering it incorrectly. I'm telling you, I'm going to find a Christmas tree like that, and I will be proved right, and everybody else will be proved wrong.
This is one of those things that on this side of heaven, he will probably never be vindicated.
Oh, I will. I will find a Christmas tree similar. That's on my life goals list. So, but
okay.
Talking about time.
Mm-hmm.
So, how do we see time? You think you and I see time similarly?
I don't know if we see it similarly or not. I think maybe a little bit more now. I think that even just our views of time has changed over the last couple of years with kids leaving the house, and it's
it hasn't been a couple of years since kids left the house. It's been like 4 months. Not even that long.
We had Allison where her whole life pretty much changed, where she just had to be in by 2 and she would not come in until 2, and so I had to make the adjustment to go to bed before she got home. All of those transitions have happened in the last couple of years, and I think that that's changed because whenever the kids were younger, it felt like the days drug on forever and that it was never going to be different. And then all of a sudden, it was just different.
Yeah.
And I think time has started going quite a bit faster.
I was talking with a guy today that he's about my age, and he was like, I'm losing track of time. Mm-hmm. As we get older, our bank of memories gets larger, which causes time to seemingly go by faster. Mm-hmm. I've noticed in the last couple of days, my foot's been hurting, and it's been cold and rainy, so I haven't been out running, and I've got extra time in the evenings that I find myself sort of going, I don't really know what to do with this hour, hour and a half that I'm normally exercising. So time is a funny thing. How do you view like if something is 6 months away, does that seem like a long time?
I don't think 6 months away seems like a long time. We typically do that. I mean, we start, if we're doing something at Christmas time, like skiing, like last year, we start, several months out preparing for it. And then we've went on trips across the U.S. the last couple of summers. And so we've started 6 months out or so planning for it,
You think
preparing.
the 6 months that Thomas has to wait from the time he can get his permit until he can get his license is a long 6 months?
I think it's a short 6 months for us. For him, I think it's forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting thinking about time and the way that we view time versus the way somebody else might view time, and certainly the way that God views time. Like April mentioned, one of the things that we experienced when we were first married was the feeling that time was standing still. We had 5 kids that we put into this family. They all had their own particular personalities about us being married. We were trying to figure out how to be married, and time seemingly stood still. And within the last 3 or 4 months, as it's, kids moving out and life is beginning to change, you're like, where did all that time go? It's like it never moved, and then all of a sudden it was gone. And one of the things we read about today, in our quiet time this morning, or our Bible reading time, we were reading John chapter 11, which is the story of Lazarus. And oftentimes, when it comes to things that we make requests for, so we're talking about the 40-day prayer challenge coming up, we're going to make some requests. We're going to ask God to do something, and our time and his time may be completely different. And that was illustrated in the story of Lazarus, because when Lazarus got sick, his sisters Mary and Martha sent a message to Jesus, who was not with them in Bethany at the time. They sent a message and said, your dear friend Lazarus is very sick. And Jesus responded, Lazarus' sickness will not end in death. No, it happened for the glory of God, so that the Son of God will receive glory from this. And so he went on about his business where he was. He stayed there for 2 more days. Now, if you were in that same situation, how do you think you might respond to that?
You would be frustrated. You would question your relationship. You would wonder, does it mean anything? Am I alone?
Does he view it the same way that I view it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a very valid question. So interestingly enough, after 2 days, Jesus said, let's go back to Judea. His disciples said at that time that the people in Judea were ready to stone you when you were there just a short time ago. You want to go back to that? So here we are again. Jesus says, okay, I'm ready. And now the people that are with him are not ready. So we have this seemingly nothing is lining up for Jesus to get back to Lazarus in a timely manner. Jesus said to the disciples, there are 12 hours of daylight every day. During the day, people can walk safely. They can see because they have the light of the world. But at night there is danger of stumbling because they have no light. Then he said, our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but now I will go and wake him up. So, knowing the story from the end now, we know that Lazarus has died, and they have begun the burial process and started all of that. And then the disciples respond to Jesus at that time, if he's sleeping, he will soon get better. They thought that he meant that Lazarus was simply asleep, but clearly Lazarus had died. So Jesus said, Lazarus is dead, and for your sakes, I'm glad I wasn't there. For now, you will really believe. Come, let's go see him. So let's talk about sort of what's happened. So Mary and Martha's brother, Lazarus, was sick. They said, hey, Jesus, come. We need you. He's very sick. Jesus says, no, it's fine. I'm going to hang here and finish what I'm doing. And then 2 days later, Jesus is like, okay, I'm ready to go. And then the disciples are like, nah, I don't know if you really want to go. When you were there just a few days ago, they wanted to stone you. And Jesus has to explain that, hey, me going back there is going to bring glory to myself and to God the Father. We get confused a lot of times when we say to God, hey, I have a need, come meet this need. And then we have to wait on God to finish what he's doing to come and meet the need. Or to say, you know what, that's not something that needs to be done right now anyway. Mm-hmm. So the timing is always funny. Again, I heard somebody not long ago say we try to put God in our human box. Mm-hmm. Because that's how we live. That's all we know is our humanity. We try to put God in that humanity box, and he just doesn't fit.
So are you going to read more from John 11? Mm-hmm. Or are you done with it?
No, I'm going to read some more.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say this is pretty much exactly our marriage story because, people that know the story know that I started praying in February of 2014 because I knew that our marriage was dying. And there was no communication with us. And then in June, that's whenever you were like, okay, this is done. We're not doing this. And I felt like God said, stand firm. And I continued to pray through it where, it was dead. And so I think that time elapsing there had to happen so that we knew that it was God, mm-hmm. that it was not, because one of the things that you had said is it's just going to be the same thing. I'm just going to, if I agree to, continue to work on it, then I'll try and you'll quit trying. And it's just going to be the same thing. And I had to just not even bite the hook that was baited and just continue down what God had told me to do. So that same thing with Lazarus. He was able to bring it back to mm-hmm. where there's no mistaking who did it.
And it's funny how Martha and Mary responded when Jesus did mm-hmm. finally show up. Martha got word she went out to meet him, but Mary stayed in the house. Martha was always sort of the emotional one. She was the one that was always doing something, always busy, and she had a lot more emotions than Mary. Mm-hmm. But Martha ran out. She met Jesus, said, if you had only been here, my brother would not have died. And she says, even though I'm angry, even though I'm frustrated, if you speak, God will answer. And how often do we forget to do that? Mm-hmm. That even whenever we're upset, even when things don't look like they're going the way that we want them to go, if God speaks, it will happen.
Yeah.
And Jesus said, your brother will rise again. So the interesting thing to note about this is that Lazarus had been dead for 4 days.
4 days.
So, and they believed in that time that the spirit remained with the body for 3 days, mm-hmm. and then it was gone. And so, in the eyes of the Israelites at that time, Lazarus was dead, not just partially dead. So, what were you looking at?
Keep going. So when they get to the tomb and they say, it's been 4 days. Mm-hmm. It was Martha that said, don't open it, it'll smell. Yeah. Okay. I couldn't remember if it was Mary or Martha that said, it's going to smell. So it is one of those that I always think of too, like as a wife, you tell your husband, I need you to do this. And you say, can you do this for me? And he'll say, yeah, I'll get to it. And then he doesn't get to it. And you say, hey, can you do this for me? And then he doesn't get to it. And then whenever he finally gets around to getting to it, then you go, just forget it. I'll do it myself.
Yeah. What's the meme going around on the internet? If a man says he's going to do something, you don't need to remind him every 6 months to do it.
I don't know. Is that the meme?
Yeah. If a man says he's going to do something, there's no need to remind him every 6 months.
Yeah.
So, anyway, just an interesting thought about time, about the way that God moves and the way that we expect him to move. We can't put God in our human box. We talked last night about the upcoming prayer challenge. We want you to be a part. We want you to be in there. We want you to ask God for big things. Not just, hey, I want to win the lottery, or hey, give me more money, or hey, take away this frustration, but believing that God has what he promises that he has for us, which is anything beyond what we can ask or even imagine, and that he has a life that is blessed. So be encouraged.
Well, and I will say it is not a name it and claim it thing. It is, you're going to get aligned with God's will for you. That is the biggest thing that I've usually ever taken out of the prayer challenges. I go in thinking one thing, and God brings me around to a completely different revelation, a different perspective, and blesses you through that.
Okay, good.
Do you think?
Maybe.
Did I stump you? Did you have the deer in the headlight looks now? That's funny.
No, I'm just trying to figure out how to get to a conclusion from that. So
come as an open heart, an open mind, an open book.
Okay. Finish up.
So that's the end of day 28. Tomorrow is day 29. And we will hopefully help Rockford invest some of his time while it's raining working out instead of making fun of his wife for working out.
You're probably right.
See, Kenneth is not going to approve of that sass.
I think he will.
Kenneth,
I think that one worked out pretty well.
Kenneth would say you should be over at his gym working out.
I think that one would come out pretty well. That one was almost perfect. So, all right. Day 29 coming tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.